Dear learners, this is the second unit of the comparative government and politics. And second unit, I will give the details about the significance of the constitutions. And in the last class, I have give the brief idea about the constitutions and different key important features of the some importance country. But in these lectures, I am giving to the focus on the significance of the constitutions. Now come to the important things that is significance of a constitution lie in its role as a foundational legal documents of a country. Settings the framework for governance and the rule of law. Here are several key aspects of highlighted the importance of the constitutions. That means when we're talking about the constitutions, what are the significance of the constitutions for any nations? Like the constitutions is a very foundational instruments. On foundational instruments, the government agency authority are delivering the some kind of the governance and the according to the rule of law. And when we're talking about the governance, that is a broader aspects. That means that the participations of the citizens, participations of the masses in the delivering of the goods and services. There is also rule of law. That means when we're talking about the rule of law, there is no any persons or citizens is above the law. Every persons are equal before the law, and there is no any kind of the discriminations on the basis any kind of the parameters. So these are the important things. Here I am talking about the significance. First important significance of the constitutions, that is establishing the structures and government. That means that through the constitutions, every nation or state, they are establishing their own kind of the governments, their nature of the governments, their system of the government. First important structures of the government on the basis of constitutions, that is called the separations of powers. That means when we're talking about the separations of power, that means not one person's either prime ministers or president, they are looking after all the things executive, legislature, and judiciary. That means in separations of power, all the important powers like the executive, legislature, and judiciary, there is some kind of the separations. When we're talking about the legislature, that means the elected members of the parliament, they can formulate law, policy, programs, norms for the people. But when we're talking about the executive, executive have no any kind of the power to formulations of the policy, but they can execute all the programs of the government through the bureaucracy. And judiciary is another organs of the separated system of the government. That means judiciary are delivering the some kind of the using the some kind of the powers through the resolutions of the disputes, conflicts, and any kind of the some kind of we call also delivering the justice. Another thing that is called the federalisms. This is also a part of the structures of the governments. Federalisms, that means there is some kind of the distributions of powers between two or more tier or agency. That means like the federal governments, state governments, and local government institutions. Federal government has more powerful, and they are looking after the important issue like the banking, defense, international affairs, telecommunications, and state governments are basically looking after the police systems, law and orders, prisons, and sometimes those local institutions like the municipal corporations looking after the immediate concerns of the persons like the water, health issue, primary educations, and all the things. Next important significance of the constitutions, that constitution define the rule of law. When we explaining the rule of law, that means according to the ABDIC, no person is above the law. All persons are equal in the eye of the law. Here is legal framework, that is constitutions establish this supreme law of the lands and providing the basis for legal systems and ensuring that all law conform to constitutional principles. Accountability by setting out the powers and limits of government institutions, constitutions hold a leaders accountable to the law. That means when we're talking about these things, there is accountability. by setting out the powers and limit of government institutions and constitutional hold leaders of the law. Next significance, that is guarantee fundamental rights and liberty. That means कि in the constitution, every constitutions, they are protecting the rights of the individual citizens and also the human rights. Constitutions ensuring fundamental rights and freedoms such as freedoms of speech, religions, assembly and right to a fair trials. This is very important things for the individual citizenship. A state cannot deny their rights. So these are also mentioned in the constitutions. Civil liberty, they protect individual freedom against arbitrary actions by the state or other entity. That means civil liberty is very important things. A state cannot encroachment in the freedoms of the individual persons. So these are the important guarantee that are mentioned in the constitutions of the different country. Next is that is providing a stability and predictability. That means continuity. Constitutions often have stable and continuous frameworks for governance or even as governance changes through the elections and other means. This is very important part of the continuity. Predictability by clearly outlining procedures and rules and constitutes provide predictability in how government functions and how law are applied. This is very important things in the constitutions. That is significance of the constitutions. That means constitutions giving the some kind of the continuity in the providing of the governance. Promote justice and equality. Constitutions always promoting the justice and equality. Equality before the law. That means the constitutions typically grant the equal protections under the law, ensuring that all individuals are treated fairly. That means that there is no any kind of the favoritisms or discriminations by the state or by the governments on the basis of caste, class, creed, or any kind of the political opinion and all the things. Social justice. Some constitutions include provisions aimed at achieving social and economic justice, addressing historical inequality, and promoting the welfare of all the citizens. This is very important part of significance of the constitutions. Next important significance, that is facilitate democratic governance. That means कि where nations have adopted constitutions, electoral process, through the electoral process, constitutions often outline the process for democratic elections, ensuring that government leaders are chosen by the peoples. That means कि through the constitutions, there is every nation has some kind of the elections commissions, and elections commissions arrange arranging the elections process. They providing the some kind of the platforms where leaders can contest the elections and citizens can participate in electoral process. So this is very important significance, especially provided by the constitutions through the elections commissions. Participations, they promote political participations and engagement by granting the rights to vote and to run for a public office. That means constitutions also encourage people's participate in electoral process. This is very also important significant of the constitutions. Now come to the next important significance, that is enable adoptions and reform. Amendment procedures. Constitutions usually include mechanisms for amendments, allowing the documents to evolve and adapt to changing circumstances and needs. And next is that is flexibility. This is also a part ensure that constitution remain relevant and effective over the times. That means कि within the constitution there is also mentions कि how the constitution can be amended. And just like uh, government formulating the policy programs or law, unlike there is no provisions for amendment of the constitutions. Amendment process is different, and there is some kind we call the tough process, not easy process. And second is also some kind of the flexibility in the amendments of the constitutions. Next is that is called the symbolics and educational role. That means the significance of the constitutions. that is called the national's identity, and constitutions often embody the value and principles of the nation, serving as a symbol of national's unity and identity. That means a symbolic and educational role is also significance, and constitutions often value the principles of nations, serving as a symbol, national unity and identity. Civic educations, they also provide a framework for educating citizens about their rights, responsibility, and functionings of their governments. This is very important parts of the things. Next, important significance of the constitutions of the within the sub-country, like the United States. U.S. Constitute Bill of Rights provide essential protections for individual freedoms, while its systems of check and balance prevent any branch of government from becoming a too powerful. That means in the United States, there is two important features of the U.S. constitutions. First important feature that U.S. Constitution Bill of Rights that is providing essential protections of the individual freedoms. And second, individual freedom, that means the freedoms of expressions, freedom of assembly, freedoms of movements, freedom of practice of religions. These rights are covered under the US Constitution's Bill of Rights. Second part, that is called the check and balance. That means no any branch of the governments become too powerful. Like the three important branch of the government, like the legislature, executive, and judiciary. So there is somehow check and balance systems. Next is that is called the India. Indian constitutions is also known for its comprehensive inclusions of fundamental rights, directive principles, and fundamental duties, promoting a balanced approach to civil liberty and social justice. That means when we're talking about the fundamental rights, that rights are right to expressions, freedom of expression, right to religious practice, right to movement, right to assembly, these are the important fundamental rights. Directive principles of the state, that means it is not mandatory or bindings on the court by the courts. But as government have some kind of the indirect directions to follow the like the Gandhian philosophy, socialisms, scientific tempers in the formulations of the policy. Fundamental duties is also retains or giving the importance to the Indian constitutions. Fundamental duty like the giving the respect of the Indian emblems, Indian flags, also protecting the environments, giving protecting the heritage buildings and all the things. Next important features of the Germany constitutions, that is basic law of Germany established after the World War II, and its constitution provide a robust framework for protecting human dignity and ensuring democratic governance. This is very important parts of the dignity and ensuring democratic governance. Next important features of the South African constitutions. Post-apartheid constitutions of South Africa is celebrated for its strong emphasis on human rights and equality, and this is also aiming to redress the injustice of the past and build a more inclusive society. So this is also very important. These are the important features within the nations like the United States, two important things like the US Constitution's bills, and second important that is check and balance. In India, like the fundamental rights, directive principles, and fundamental duty, and also balanced approach to civil liberty and social justice. Germany has given the importance to the framework of protecting the human dignity and ensuring democratic governance. And in South Africa, they are talking about the inclusive society or injustice of the past. This is the important features of the South African Constitution. Here I am going to conclude about the Constitution's significance. The Constitution is a crucial for establishing a just, a stable, and democratic society. It serves as the ultimate legal authority, guidance the actions of the governments, and protecting the rights and freedoms of individuals. By providing a clear framework of governance and law, Constitution promote order, justice, equality, ensuring the power exercised responsibly and fairly. That means constitutions is a very important legal document, and through the constitutions, head of the institutions or ruling class, they are delivering the governments by the fair trials, fair treatments, the framework of the governance, and equal justice, and there is no any kind of the atrocity by the states. So this is very important significance of the constitutions all over the world. Without constitutions, a state become anarchy, a state become maybe dictators. So constitutions always giving the some kind of the like the controlling the authority those who are ruling the nations. Thank you for these lectures.